Hello and welcome. My name is Don Pitkella.
And I'm Angela Pitkella.
And this is Welcome to Livingston, our podcast where we focus on everything Livingston County and welcome local businesses in to talk to them about what they're doing in the county.
Absolutely. And, as realtors, we've noticed so many people moving into Livingston County, and this is our chance to really kind of give back and share these, little special things. And for those of us like us who have lived in Livingston County 20 years, it's exciting to find out new things that maybe we didn't even know about, as well as the new people coming in. So today we have some great guests, Virginia Larioza and Tony Tollis, and they're going to be representing Rock Steady Boxing. So
which I'm really excited about hearing all about Rock Steady today.
Well, thanks for having us.
So Virginia, can you start off by telling us what is Rock Steady Boxing?
So Rock Steady Boxing is a program that started down in Indianapolis, Indiana, with an attorney who had young onset Parkinson's. And long story short, started working out with a friend doing boxing and really noticed an improvement in his symptoms, which, the symptoms of Parkinson's are so varied. And then it just sort of mushroomed from there. It grew, and now there's, over 800 affiliates worldwide, literally thousands of people doing Rock Steady. And the studies have shown that forced intense exercise is fantastic for people with Parkinson's. There's no cure for Parkinson's, and the medications just mask the symptoms, but they don't really help keep it from progressing, or they don't regress it. But exercise has been found to do both. It can slow the Parkinson's, and it can help regress some of the symptoms sometimes. And boxing is one of those things that incorporates so many different exercise modalities, right? And it helps with their with them making larger movements. It helps with their balance. It helps with their gait, and it's fun, right, Tony?
It's great fun.
Yeah, and now Tony, you're one of the boxers, right?
I am one of the boxers.
So how long have you been doing it?
It'll be 3 years in June.
Great.
That is just amazing. And so with starting and such, did you see an impact right away?
Almost immediately. But the impact didn't only come from just the exercise itself. What helps with the impact is the camaraderie that you gain almost instantly with this group of people that you never met prior to starting boxing, and learning quickly that you're not out there alone. You've got a community that you quickly become part of that helps you identify with other symptoms that exist that you may not have experienced and may never experience. And then with having Rock Steady Boxing to back up everything that's going on there, and Virginia being just a wonderful coach,
awesome,
who I believe knows more about Parkinson's than a lot of neurologists know. And every time we get together, she's able to share what she's learned over that last day or two or weekend, because she's constantly reading on it. So we come to trust that when you walk in the door, you're going to learn something new that day, not only in exercise, but something more about Parkinson's and something more about the folks that you're exercising with on a daily basis. So it's just a great experience overall.
And to have that community, that sense of the others there.
That shared support.
Right. I would say that in some ways that is even more important than the exercise. It helps with the cognitive decline too, to be talking, and those are some of the things that we work on. But just to be with people that you feel comfortable with, they don't feel judged. Somebody's having a bad day. And just the friendship and the looking forward to, because one of the non-motor symptoms of Parkinson's is depression, apathy, anxiety. So when they come and they're with those people, when you're not feeling well mentally or physically, just to get yourself up and get yourself dressed and get yourself to a place is really a big deal. And I think for that little period of time, they kind of forget necessarily that they have Parkinson's, and they're laughing, and they see each other sometimes socially away from the group, and because a lot of them have drawn away from even friends or family or activities because they just don't feel like it, they don't feel good, or they're embarrassed, those sorts of things. There's a lot more to Parkinson's than just having tremors. right?
Right.
Right.
Which has been very interesting to kind of find out more about that.
Right. I guess my first question is, I understand the rock steady boxing, but how did you get involved in this,
Right.
to bring it to Livingston County?
So I had been teaching classes for special populations for years, and I was working, at an assisted living facility. I went in several times a week to teach classes and things like that, and I had other classes running with either physically challenged or older people. And a friend of mine's husband was diagnosed with Parkinson's, and I said, I think I've seen something about boxing for Parkinson's. I'm pretty sure I saw it on CBS Sunday Morning. Let me look into this. And so I started researching it and found out that the headquarters for Rocksteady was right in Indianapolis. And I started looking into it more and more. And I said, gosh, we have like 90% of the equipment already in our dojo. I already have a lot of the knowledge. Let me maybe look into this. There's nothing in our area for this. And so I went down to Indianapolis and took the training, and we're now just starting our 5th year, right?
Congratulations.
So, yeah. Some of the boxers have been with me for 5 years, and we joke that we've really been together, been through a lot in 5 years, So that's how it started here.
Wow.
We brought it to Livingston County.
Great. Now, how many people are in the classes?
So some days the classes are small. We might only have 5 or 6, and some days we're up to like about 20. So pre-COVID, we were running 2 classes, 4 days a week. But obviously gyms and things were closed for a while. So we kind of dialed back, and we're getting really up to the point where I think we're going to have to split into 2 classes again, probably just to accommodate everybody.
Right.
But it's, it's more fun when there's a bigger group.
Right.
Yeah.
So Tony, what does a workout look like? Like, what do you expect when you come in to be doing this?
You expect something different every day.
Okay.
So that's, again, where Virginia does a lot of work on identifying what types of things help the average person with Parkinson's.
Okay.
And then she'll zero in on some situations where you've got an individual who has a much more difficult time with their gait and their walk. So she has exercises to start off that helps with the gait and the walk, where she has us do walking around the gym, high knees, heel tap, butt taps. You got to lift your heel up to your backside and moving faster. And trust me, if you're not moving at the speed she thinks you should be moving to help improve, you'll hear it in her voice. So start off with your regular warm-up and stretching and hip mobilities. But then she'll decide, okay, today we're going to focus a little bit more on fine motor skills. So we'll have little exercises where we'll have a small screw and a bolt and washers, and you've got to put the washers on and tighten the bolt onto the screw, which to the average person is a pretty easy task. But with somebody with Parkinson's, the fine motor skills are impacted quite a bit, and so that becomes a very difficult task.
Right.
So to do something like that becomes more difficult than to do 30 or 40 push-ups. Whereas you're not, the strength in most of us aren't necessarily as impacted as some of our fine motor skills. Other exercise, you can find yourself yelling at a little, what do you call those little?
Oh, the yellies.
The yellies.
Yeah, that makes
so you're
them
on your
move.
hands and knees chasing this little yelly, where if you yell at it, it'll start to move. So the louder you yell, the more it'll move and the faster it'll move. So the objective, of course, is to get you to use your voice and get your voice box exercise.
Right.
So we'll do that. And then towards the end, the last 20 minutes or so, we get on the heavy bag with boxing gloves, and we're going at it. I mean, for 3 minutes at a time with a 30-second break, 3 minutes, 30-second break, 3 minutes, and you're moving, and she doesn't stop until she sees sweat coming off your forehead.
Wow.
And that's where she gets in, when she talks about intense training. It really does make a difference.
Right. Well, having taken a couple boxing classes, just one here, even doing the kickboxing and the other things, I was so fascinated to come in to talk to you guys, because I know how hard of a workout that is, even to hit a bag for 30 seconds. Like, people that haven't done it before, they don't realize how many muscles you use and what an intense workout that is. So it's just, kudos to be doing it. And then to get that, positive impact on the Parkinsons. But again, it's not a easy workout to do.
Oh, by no stretch of the imagination. The workout is intense. You're tired when you leave there after an hour and a half.
Right.
But then there's a cool down. She'll even incorporate some yoga movements in there. So you really feel like you've got a well-rounded workout when you leave. And you go home and your family recognizes the confidence level that has been built in you. They see a difference in your overall attitude towards life in general. Because as Virginia mentioned earlier, fact of the matter is you do become depressed when you're first diagnosed, and there are days where they're better than they're not. But when you open up that door to Rocksteady Boxing and walk in, you leave all that behind you for that hour and a half, and you feel really good about yourself. You feel like you're part of that community. It's a lot different than opening that door to the grocery store, or to Home Depot, or wherever you might go. And all of a sudden your complex kicks in and you start to worry about what people might be thinking as you're walking and you're dragging your leg or your arm is tremoring a little bit, where you don't even think about that when you're in Rocksteady Boxing. All that goes away for that period of time. So it's a great experience and great part of my life, 4 days a week.
Wow.
Sounds like it really has impact.
So we really are working to address all of their symptoms, whether it's the softer voice, posture, the ability to get up and down off of the floor safely if you do fall, taking bigger steps. With Parkinson's, everything gets smaller. Their writing gets smaller, their voice gets softer. And of course, we don't, not only do we not want them speaking softly, we want to keep all of this strong, because this is how you swallow, how you breathe. And there's a big, one of the points I always make to people is there's a big difference when you're working out to fit into a pair of jeans or to look good in your swimsuit, or you're working out to maintain your quality of life. Right.
That's a huge difference.
So we're always working on balance and core strength and all of those things, plus the fine motor and the cognitive. There's cognitive decline, but for all of us as we age, so we're working on that. And when they're doing the boxing, they're crossing the midline of the body, they're moving their feet, they're moving around the bag. We have them do, work on longer punches, higher punches, so they're not just little tiny movements. And it's something that has to be practiced for them, right? So, it's all encompassing, because we really are. Exercise is great for people with Parkinson's, but we always want to make sure that they're in an environment that's safe, that we can adjust it for. We have people in walkers and wheelchairs that do it too. Okay, so it's not just fit mobile people, but I love the fact that they can, during at least that period of time, mentally see themselves as an athlete and not a patient. Right.
Mindset is such a huge part of it.
Mm-hmm.
That is that's wonderful. That's fascinating. And I know you said at the beginning, like you went down to Indianapolis and you read the studies and you're learning something every day and everything. What are some of the studies say the impact of doing this then? What kind of improvements have you seen in people? And I know we talk about the mental aspect and such, but when they're working on those fine motor skills and such, I guess the question is, what have you seen over the years in terms of those?
I would say with our people, just seeing them stand up straighter, seeing them smile. One of the things that people don't realize is one of the non-motor symptoms of Parkinson's is the masked face. So they look angry all the time, and they're really not, and we'll joke with them. I say, you got to smile, get that bigger smile. I am smiling, So, we work on that, but also it's the laughter and the camaraderie that we share with everybody, and we're involved in our lives. We talk about our families and we, all of those sorts of things, but just getting them to communicate and speak up. And I've seen certainly some of our boxers that were extremely shy and withdrawn, really become the life of the party sometimes, right? Yeah. What do you think, Tony?
Oh, absolutely. And that's probably one of the things that my family has recognized most. As prior to Parkinson's, animation was really big with me. My hand, my movements, my gestures. Being Italian, you talk with your hands.
Yeah.
My left hand is most affected by Parkinson's, so now I say I only talk with one hand, and so therefore I stutter a little bit. And but it's become my sense of humor is coming back, and my family sees my joy being found again. Whereas for a period of time in the beginning stages, everything just kind of slowed down, including my desire to do anything, to go out and visit people, to be with friends. That's very, very common amongst people with Parkinson's, is they do withdraw from many of the things that they were very active in at one time. And I'm finding myself becoming more and more active again. And now even telling my wife, why don't we get together with so-and-so friends that we haven't seen in a while, or go visit a relative? And the smile on her face when she hears me say that is priceless, because she just sees Tony coming back.
Right.
And so, again, it's not reversing Parkinson's necessarily, but what it is creating the ability for you to do things that you thought you couldn't do any longer.
Right.
Right.
So, and that's been important to me, and obviously my family and friends as well.
Yeah. So for those that maybe are early on in the path, what advice could you guys give them, or what would you suggest for someone who's, kind of newly diagnosed with Parkinson's and not sure where to go, is probably feeling a lot of those emotions that you just described?
Yeah. So there was just a study done at Saginaw State or Saginaw Valley, the college, with the grief involved with Parkinson's, but really anybody that gets a diagnosis, particularly a neurodegenerative disease. It's not only depression, but it's grief. And I want to make clear too, not only are people sometimes depressed because they've been diagnosed with Parkinson's, depression is often a precursor to Parkinson's many, many years before. Wow. So they think it may have something to do with the gut microbiome, and that's a whole other conversation. But many times early symptoms of Parkinson's are missed or are misdiagnosed. So they've actually been suffering symptoms even from their 20s or 30s, mild loss of sense of smell, constipation. We talk about that and make a big joke about it in our class. We have one of our guys, Casey, is very particular about his I don't know his bowel movements. Okay, we'll just say. But anyway, people don't realize that that's a big problem with Parkinson's patients. So now I've lost. I can't even think of what we were talking about with some of the symptoms. But early diagnosis. So I think it's very important. People should understand that there's different categories of neurologists, and there's a category called a movement disorder specialist, and those are the ones that are the expert in Parkinson's. So just maybe my advice would be, if your family doctor has said, we think you have Parkinson's, let's try you on the medication and see if you respond. That's oftentimes, one of the first things that's done, is to get in to see a true movement disorder specialist. And there aren't a lot of them, and it can be very hard, very long, 6 months or more to get an appointment. So I think that's important for people to know. And the other thing is, Parkinson's is not a death sentence. People live a long time, frequently with Parkinson's. And, there are other offshoots, like a lot of people learned about Lewy body dementia because of Robin Williams. Right. And people know that Muhammad Ali had Parkinson's. Parkinson's is a snowflake disease. In other words, each person who has Parkinson's is different. They frequently say, if you know one person with Parkinson's, you know one person with Parkinson's. So just, kind of learning. I think sometimes for some people, I would say maybe stay off the internet a little bit. There's some scary stuff that you might hear that might not ever happen to you. But, there are local Parkinson's support groups. There are Parkinson's support groups for young onset. Because it's different. It's different if you're diagnosed with Parkinson's and you're 40 than if you're diagnosed with Parkinson's and you're 70. Right. So your
different
worries and concerns are different.
And it's interesting. It's because it's one of those ones that, you hear about, but you don't hear about. I mean, I knew about Parkinson's because when Michael J. Fox got Parkinson's or was diagnosed or came out with it, so, but then we've had a few clients that have had Parkinson's. So it's interesting because, with any neurological disease or disease, those support networks are so important that find out information. And I would agree with you. I think going on the internet or WebMD
probably the
is
worst
one of the
thing
worst things to
possible.
do when you find out you have anything.
Anything.
You know, that's very true. Maybe don't Dr. Google it so much, you know.
Yeah.
But you know, we have a fantastic Parkinson's Foundation here in the state of Michigan. There's, you know, Michael J. Fox Foundation is phenomenal. They probably, I think, put more money into research than any other organization. But there again, you have Michael J. Fox, so he's interesting because he had symptoms very early, and he comes from like a pocket in the area that he was in. There's a lot of people with Parkinson's, so that's always interesting too.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right. Now, in terms of maybe someone that has more of an advanced stage that maybe hasn't gotten into the exercise, you know, what does that look like for them to say, hey, this seems really interesting, but boy, I don't know if I can do this? You talked about the person with the walker.
Right. I think a lot of people that are a little bit more advanced stage or a little bit older are reticent to get started in an exercise program, and they think, but boxing, I could never do boxing. But it's really not true. I mean, we have people in wheelchairs. We've had people in walkers. We're able to adapt and adjust, and they do what they can do. Safely. I'm very, very big on safety, right, Tony? That's a huge thing. I don't ever want anybody injured. So we adapt, you know, for them, and they absolutely certainly can do it. They, you know, and there's benefits for them as well. Maybe they're not going to get out of the wheelchair, but maybe they're going to be brighter. They're going to swallow better. They're going to breathe better. They're going to sleep better. Sleep disturbances are a big component of Parkinson's. And so if you can get a little bit better sleep, of course, you're better the next day, right? With all of your functions.
Absolutely.
Right. Mm-hmm. I think probably a big part of it is just getting in there and getting started, seeing that there's other people like you in there, and then, oh, I can do this task. Maybe I can do the next task.
Just showing up.
Right.
Yeah.
Just showing up.
Yeah, I think as Virginia mentioned, she's got a very diverse group of individuals in the class, ranging from folks that are, you know, with walkers or canes, moving very slow, to folks that are much higher functioning. And we kind of splinter off into small groups that work well together. Some of us go rogue and we'll run up and down and do boxing and push-ups and sit-ups.
We have a lot of former military who happen to be extremely alpha and disciplined and push themselves. And, you know, we have several retired colonels, and we have Army helicopter pilot, and so they're and then they push everybody else too, you know. But it's really okay if they're doing their running or their push-ups on the floor, and then we have another group over there doing wall push-ups, or they're working on just being able to stand up, you know.
Yeah.
And it's unconditional care and love for each other. I mean, we all know that we're there with a common theme, if you will, and so we're working together to be the best we can be and focus on our abilities instead of the disabilities that we walk in the door with. And I think the more often we find ourselves doing that, the more we do push ourselves to be the best we can be with what we're dealt with at this time in our life. And Virginia just creates the environment to allow that to happen, and brings to the table every day something new that can help us with a particular area of issue that we might be dealing with. Because again, with over 200 different symptoms that Parkinson patients have, we do come to the table with a little bit of different issue as it relates to Parkinson's. And so when we have somebody in our corner, being Virginia, making sure that she's studying up on the things that can help us best, we have total confidence when we walk in that door. So for anybody who's out there wondering, what can I do, or what kind of path should I be following, I can only encourage them, please give this a try. It took me a couple months after diagnosed to think about Rocksteady Boxing, even though I knew about it beforehand. I came in and watched. Virginia allows us to observe and go home and think about it a little bit. Then it finally got to the point where, okay, I have to do something, because the way I feel right now is not good. And the day I walked in that door and became part of that community, I felt right away things just shedding in terms of my depression, my feeling of there's nothing I can do with this. And I was one who got on the internet and read the different levels of Parkinson's.
Probably made your anxiety rise.
Oh my
really.
gosh, it was incredible. It was, okay, I'm done. I told my wife, this is it. I might as well just crawl up in a corner and just wait my time out and just get this over with. And trust me, this is a much better alternative.
Yes.
It really is.
So I want to say to people too, it's not just the boxing. I mean, we do a lot of other stations. We're working on a lot of other things. So don't be intimidated. I think a lot of women tend to shy away from the boxing because they think it's just, it's just boxing, but that's only a part of it. And I recently took 2 levels of certification in a program called Partay, which is Parkinson's and the Art of Expression. And it was developed by an occupational therapist who was also a theater major. And so we've incorporated some of the theater things, the big movements and pretending and the facial expressions and all that. And I know when I went and took the training, a bunch of them were like, oh my God, what is she going to come back with now? This is awful. She's going to make us do theater. But we actually have had a ton of fun with it. So we're always looking to incorporate other things. We do a lot with music. And everybody's kind of around the same age, so we appreciate the same kind of music and we switch it up, And sometimes we have somebody that comes in that works on some dance things, much to the chagrin of several of them, I will say. And of course, we really are a karate dojo, so we incorporate martial arts and elements from Tai Chi and bow staffs and all those things. So they're constantly being challenged. They have learned to use nunchucks and so it's just fun. I say it's like a play group, for adults.
Wow.
How fantastic. And that's right. I don't know that we touched on where it's actually located because you're in Howell.
Right. So my husband, Sam, and I own Ohana Karate, which is in the plaza right next to Los Tres Amigos. So kind of on the corner of Grand River and Latson. So we're in there. So one of the doors says Ohana Karate and the other one says Rocksteady Boxing.
Perfect. And very close to anywhere in the county, really, because it's right, not far from that freeway.
Right. Well, Tony comes from Milford. Drives in. We have a lot of boxers from Pinckney, Hamburg area. So it's not just Howell, Brighton. They come.
Right.
Well, because it is a unique program, and most of our referrals are word of mouth through other people with Parkinson's or directly from the neurologists. And so people start to realize that they will travel to come and do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it has such benefit, and if it's making such a difference in people's lives, my goodness, it doesn't matter how far it is, really.
Absolutely. I drive from our cabin up in Rose City on Monday mornings to get here by 12:30 almost every Monday.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you said you do it 4 days a week?
Yes.
Yeah.
Monday through
Yep.
Thursday.
So the studies show that the biggest benefit comes from at least 3 times a week.
Okay.
But I think, we operate it currently 4 days a week, and but they hate to miss out. They don't want to miss out. And I always tell them, oh, you weren't here yesterday. We rode the unicorns yesterday. I'm so sorry.
You missed it.
Yeah, they don't like to miss out at all.
Right. That's just fascinating.
Great. Now, how can people in the community help? For those that don't have, Parkinson's or a connection to someone that does, but they've, been moved or inspired by our visit here.
So we do welcome volunteers to come in. They're called corner men. Corner babes for the wives. Some of the boxers do need someone with them throughout the class, either because they're a fall risk or just even cognitively, like they're fine once they get to the station if you just kind of remind them what to do and things like that. But we're always looking for qualified volunteers that can come in, we'll train them what to do and things like that. Especially anybody that's looking to work with vets. We have quite a few veterans. So if that moves anybody, it would be nice. We can always use volunteers to help with stuff for sure.
Fantastic. And I think I even saw on the website a place for donations for those maybe that don't have the time, but want to, offer money to.
Yep. That's always nice.
Always welcome.
We've
Really
had
anything.
well, you know what? We've had some really nice equipment donated. One of our boxers donated bought blaze pods for Christmas for everybody. So those were fun. We do those. And Rocksteady itself, of course, is a large 501c3, and they do accept donations as well too.
Great, because it seems like just a phenomenal cause. Just really,
yeah. I can hardly think of anybody I've ever met that hasn't somehow been touched by Parkinson's. And I do want to mention too, another really fun thing is the one of the local junior high what am I trying to say? Not the computer club, but the tech, the robotics club, right? So they have worked on a project and they've used it in competitions too. They're designing a bag that has LED lights on it, so the boxers can punch and follow the lights. So it was kind of cool, and I think it was they had to do a lot of research on Parkinson's as part of their presentations, and it's Team Crash out of Howell.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so if you know Team Crash, yep. So they're working on something for us as well to use there. So
That is so cool.
yeah.
Awesome. Great. Now, so you've certainly seen a lot of interesting things over your time in doing this in the last 5 years. Is there, what's an interesting thing that you've seen that you'd be able to share with us?
Well, I think just for me, one of the big eye openers was really learning about all of the other things that people with Parkinson's deal with. I just had no idea.
Concept for it.
And there's a great visual where they show like an iceberg, and you see this little bit at the top, which for most people, might be the stooped posture, the trembling, that sort of thing, the slowness of movement, the rigidity, but just learning about all the other things that they're dealing with was really huge for me. And just the passion and camaraderie that they feel for each other, and we all feel for each other in the group is I can't imagine my life without them now.
Right.
Yeah. But I think Tony could probably really speak to.
In terms of what's some of the more interesting things that you've seen or experienced?
Well, just with regards to Rock City Boxing and the camaraderie piece and just the folks that are there, Virginia mentioned a little earlier, just to see individuals come in meek and mild and feeling just resolved to the fact in their minds that there was nothing left. They just were going to be this way forever.
Wow.
And to see them come out of that shell and the reality set in that it is possible to feel better, even though it might be masking the actual Parkinson's. But when you start, and if it's a placebo effect, I don't care what it is, if it makes you feel better and you can move better and you can speak better and with more confidence, then that to me is worth every minute of the time you spend there.
Yeah.
And that's what keeps me going, is I know when I leave, I'm going to get in my car and I'm going to thank myself for doing it again and just have that smile of confidence on my face again.
I think, we work on things, real life scenarios. Some of them, they're hungry because they won't stop because they can't order, they can't go through a fast food drive-through and order food because they can't speak up enough. Or they won't go out to eat anymore because it's too embarrassing for them to try to get money out of their wallet or to scoot into a booth or to even order their food in a restaurant. So
or to cut your steak if you're going to order a steak. I mean, to have people watch you pick up your fork or your knife and put it in your hand the right way, because you're focusing constantly on the things that need to be done that so many people take for granted is just something you do without even thinking.
Yeah. So we're not just boxing, we're not just doing squats, and we're not just doing lunges, which we do. But we're doing things like pretending going into a restaurant, pretending ordering food. We're working on the fine motor, getting money out, getting credit cards out, getting through lines, right? Having to stop and start in a line. Just all those sorts of everyday things that we take for granted and we never think about
it.
Right, right. Yep. You look at all the big picture things. Oh, he can't walk very well. Oh, he has a hard time getting out of the car. But there's so much more. And you can train for it, right, Tony? You can practice it. You can train for it. So we work on all those sorts of things too.
Wow.
That's fantastic. Kudos to you guys, because this has just been so educational that,
yeah, exactly. Because the thing is, it's like that iceberg you talked about. When people think about Parkinson's, we think about, the slow motion or, the trembling hands. But I never thought about all the other little tiny things, such as...
And big ones, I'm sure, but that you've been sharing here today.
Yeah, so Parkinson's is the fastest growing diagnosed neurodegenerative disease, ahead of Alzheimer's and a lot of other things. So here's another interesting thing that we're seeing is, and we'll have to wait and see, and it may not be very much in my lifetime yet, but people with the long hauler COVID are being diagnosed with Parkinsonian symptoms.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. So ultimately, what could this potentially mean for society in terms of cost and treatment and dealing with people that maybe are going to be diagnosed with Parkinson's much earlier, or similar symptoms to Parkinson's? We don't know. No one knows
it's
yet.
Also
but,
new.
Right. But if you think of one of the earliest symptoms for many with Parkinson's is loss of sense of smell. And what is one of the earliest symptoms of COVID with people? They lose their sense of smell. And if you read some of the long hauler reports now, people are 2 years in and they still don't necessarily, some of them have their sense of smell and taste back right. So it's affecting the olfactory bulb in the brain. And so we don't know. So I just kind of wanted to put that out there. Those of us in the Parkinson's community are a little bit worried about what the future might hold from COVID, kicking this disease up for some people.
Yeah, if there's a lot of commonalities that you guys that have the most amount of knowledge with this disease can see that.
Well, I know that, the medical community is really looking at it.
Right.
Yeah, great. Goodness, boy, we could just talk for quite a long time, but I think we're starting to near the end here. And one of the questions I always like to ask our guests, because we're just so proud of Livingston County, and that's why we started this, to really reach out and focus on Livingston. And so we want to know, what do you guys like best about Livingston?
Well,
I've always loved Livingston County. I lived in Howell for a couple of years when I first got married, and then we moved to Grand Rapids for 11 years and came back, and we said we want to end up somewhere near the Howell, Brighton area. Yeah. And so closest we could get to was Milford, so we can get to our families on the far east side in St. Clair Shores, Sterling Heights area. But I've always loved the community, the friendliness, the shops. You don't have all the big box stores in most of the areas. It's a community. And I've come to appreciate communities a whole lot more than ever before because of Parkinson's. And having the Parkinson's community that I belong to now reminds me a lot of what Livingston offers as a community, the events that they have going on. I've always enjoyed that. I worked down the street in Brighton for several years and just loved everything they had to offer in the area.
I think we settled here because we're in Fowlerville. We wanted to be in a little bit more rural setting and a little bit smaller school. And it was just a great place to raise our family. And I love the community here. And we're seeing more of an influx of new people, but it was funny, being in Fowlerville when we first moved in, the amount of people that have lived there their whole life and for generations, I think there is really a sense of pride in the community here too. And it's, you have easy access to things, but it's also a little bit still a small town. You get to know a lot of people and things like that. So
run into people. It was exciting for me to hear as you were looking at some of our prior podcasts and some of our other guests that we've had that and
I think between our kids being student athletes, so we knew a lot of people in the community because of that, and then us having the dojo, my gosh, the people that have passed through there over the years, and the ones that were little with us started and they're now adults and they're bringing their kids to us. So that makes but it makes you feel really old, but we've gotten to know so many people through that and enjoyed such tremendous community support for our business. I think that is something that people here do try to support their local people, their local businesses. I'll sometimes pay a lot more just to get something or do something here. Especially with the price of gas now. Who wants to drive, for sure. But
that's true. But no, it's such a great place.
Yeah. And I know Ohana is such a great part of the community and Rocksteady Boxing as well. And with Ohana, over the years, known so many people that have gone through that and seen such the great impact that has on the community as well. So
positivity.
Yeah,
very much so.
You know what? I think people are very fortunate when they're able to make a living doing something that they love and something that's like a positive give back to the community. And I knew when we started Rocksteady that it was not going to be a moneymaker, but Sam promised that I could do it. And we joke all the time now that he keeps a karate school running to support the Parkinsons. So that's what we do. But we were able to use the dojo, the facility and the equipment during a time of day when nobody was using it anyway. So to be able to give it back to the community community is, it's a blessing too. It's a
Right.
blessing for us.
Yep. So if someone wants to reach out to you guys to get started with Rock Steady, how do they contact you?
So they can contact us directly. There's, if they go to Rock Steady Boxing Livingston County, they just put that into Google. It'll come up. We have a Facebook page, and we have a direct number that they can call to. And I think it's going to be listed in your notes.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sure is in the show notes there. Great. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
No, yeah, we really do appreciate it. And everyone listening out there, please check out their online Facebook. Just Google it and you'll be able to find them. And check out our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcast. Please like and subscribe to it. Check out
Facebook
some of the
page, too.
other great local businesses we've had on.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. And just check it out.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for listening today. Thank you guys for coming
Thanks
on. We
for
really
having us.
appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
And welcome to Livingston.